Hello dear students, welcome to online lecture series Department of Chemistry, KTHM College Nasik. So friends, in our previous lecture we started our discussion about the introduction to green chemistry. Very basically we saw that there are 5 important spheres such as the atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere and the thermosphere. In fact, there are 3 important components of the environment. One is nothing but the biotic, second is abiotic and third one is the energy component. We studied about the first sphere, atmosphere, and right now we are discussing about the second sphere, that is the hydrosphere. All the water resources such as a river, ocean, seas, stream, lake, pond, etc. belongs to the hydrosphere. All they maintains the hydrological cycle. And one important part of the hydrosphere is the chemistry of groundwater and the rainwater. So today's our task of discussion is the chemistry of groundwater and rainwater. Chemistry of groundwater and rainwater. So friends, as per our discussion, approximately 75% of the water is present in ocean and seas in the form of a salty water. And as per our distribution, only 1% fresh water is there. The rainwater and the surface water are the important sources of the fresh water. They are the important sources of fresh water. In fact, the rainwater and the rainwater runoff gets percolated through the soil into the underground, where they gets accumulate and to forms a groundwater. Actually, if the groundwater is withdrawn excessively, it causes a many more serious problem to the environment. The first important problem of a withdrawal of a groundwater is the contamination of water through the certain sources of pollutants such as drainage. Then second one is the septic tank. Obviously the water from the septic tank and the drainage gets incorporated, gets percolate into the groundwater. Second is the contamination of a groundwater by certain pollutants such as arsenic, carbon dioxide, etc. etc. So these are the 2 important main drawback of a withdrawal of a groundwater. One is the contamination through the sources such as the septic tank and drainage, and the second is the contamination of pollutants such as arsenic, carbon dioxide, etc. So friends, weathering of rocks means the deterioration of a rock during the runoff of the water will add a number of mineral into the waters, and this added mineral increases the total dissolved solid of the water. My intention is to tell you that the weathering of a rock increases the TDS of water. Weathering of a rock rocks increases TDS of water. And therefore the TDS of a river water is at max, because the river water is under running in contact with the various rocks. Obviously the deterioration of the rock takes place, the minerals and other components get added into the water, and obviously total dissolved solids of the water increases. Second thing is about the snow and ice. Snow and ice are also important component of the hydrosphere. Snow and ice. Snows and ice are the important component of hydrosphere. They are also known as solid waters. We call it as solid water. The important characteristic is that the solid water has a property to reflect the solar energy. They never absorb the solar energy. And this property of a reflection of a solar energy is helpful to maintain the average global temperature 15 to 17 degrees Celsius, because we know that the average global temperature is 15 to 17 degrees Celsius. It means that the ice and snows does not absorb the solar energy, and obviously will help to maintain the global average temperature, because they does not penetrate through the ice caps, snows, ice, etc. Second thing, once they does not penetrate through the ice, and we know that ice means polar ice caps has a low density, and therefore they float over the water bodies, and therefore the aquatic system in the water body can be maintained, can be protected, because the solar radiations never enter at the bottom of water body. Next thing, the ice and the snows, when melt, it gives a large quantity of water, and therefore we can say that the ice and the snows are a very important source of fresh water again. Ice and snows, important source of fresh water. Next to that, when the water gets evaporate, the water vapors present in the atmosphere also helps to maintain the global average temperature. Next component is the water vapor. So the water vapors also helps to maintain global average temperature. The life of living organism depends upon the atmospheric composition, we know that. And therefore this water vapor present in the atmosphere is also important for the life of living organism. Next thing, the process of conversion of a liquid water into the corresponding vapor, we call it as evaporation or vaporization. The vaporization is also one of the important process for the life of a living kingdoms. Evaporation, transpiration, absorption, these are the number of processes takes place during the development, during the process, during the life of living kingdoms, both in case of plants and animals. So this process of evaporation is also important one. The one most important process which alter the hydrosphere or which affect the composition of the hydrosphere is the weathering of rocks. Because during the weathering, the composition of the hydrosphere means water body changes, and once the composition of water body changes, it will affect on the life of aquatic system, means aquatic animals as well as aquatic plants. And during the process of transpiration, transformation or movement from one place to another place, a number of changes takes place. We will summarize a few important changes. For example, leaching process will take place. First thing, leaching. In this case, several number of salts undergoes a leaching. Several number of soluble salt leaches. This is the first transformation when the water runs from one place to another place, that is during the weathering. Second is weathering of rocks. As per our discussion, we called it as a deterioration. The third one is hydration process takes place, because when this component, inorganic component, comes in contact with water, hydration will take place. And there are many more inorganic components which upon hydration gets converted into the soluble component, means a soluble salt. So the hydration can solubilize some minerals. Suppose if you have a calcium sulfate, I will call it as anhydrous calcium sulfate. Upon hydration, it will give a corresponding gypsum, CaSO4 twice H2O. This is our gypsum. This gypsum again in contact with the excess of water, it gives ACA2 plus SO4 2 minus. So these are the ions which is soluble in water. So it was the third impact. You just note all this data so that we will proceed towards the next transformation. Next one is the aerial oxidation. Fourth one, aerial oxidation. Aerial oxidation. Certain minerals such as hematite, limonite, undergoes a aerial oxidation. For example, Fe3O4, we call it as a magnetite. Upon their oxidation, gets converted into Fe2O3, we call it as a hematite. This hematite, upon hydration, gives corresponding limonite, thrice Fe2O3, twice H2O. Limonite. In this way, aerial oxidation takes place. Second example is of a pyrite, suppose. FeES2. We call it as iron pyrite. Upon oxidation, in presence of water, it gives a corresponding twice of Fe2O3 plus 16EH plus 8SO4 2 minus. So in this way, here if we think the liberated acid, this liberated acid helps the oxidation, or you can say the weathering of other minerals. The liberated H plus ion helps the weathering of another minerals. This is an example of aerial oxidation of a magnetite, hematite and iron pyrite. Now the next transformation is the action of carbon dioxide. Action of carbon dioxide. The aluminosilicate interacts with the carbon dioxide and gives the corresponding water soluble salts. The carbonates, aluminosilicates reacts with CO2 to give water soluble salt. We will take a certain example. Suppose dolomite, limestone, etc. We will take an example of a carbonate, suppose. MCO3 means a metal carbonate. Reacts with carbon dioxide in presence of water. Obviously, it gives a metal ion plus HCO3 minus. Here M means a metal. It may be equal to calcium. It may be equal to magnesium, or it may be equal to ions, you can say. Another example is silicate minerals. Silicate mineral. They also react with water and carbon dioxide to give the corresponding clay which is an insoluble, you can say. Along with that, HCO3 minus and H4SiO4, H4SiO4 along with the metal. One important drawback is that here the insoluble clay is formed. Because you know that clay is the insoluble substance. In this way, the carbon dioxide reacts with carbonate, aluminum silicate, and it gives a corresponding water soluble component. So this is water soluble, this is also water soluble components. Now the next one is, this is your first one, this is your second example. Now the third one, weathering of phosphate mineral also releases the certain component such as H2PO3, H2PO4 minus, HPO3 minus, etc. So, weathering of phosphate mineral gives H2PO4 minus, HPO43 minus, which combines with calcium and magnesium, which combine with Ca2 plus and Mg2 plus to form a water soluble complex. To form water soluble complex. The next component is the microorganisms which is present in the hydrosphere. The microorganism such as algae, fungi, bacteria, they are also important component of the aquatic ecosystem. Microorganism is also important component of aquatic ecosystem. So what they do, microorganism? The first one is algae. Algae absorb the solar radiations during their photosynthesis. It absorbs solar energy during photosynthesis. Next one is bacteria and fungi. Bacteria and fungi, they mediate large number of redox reaction. Mediate large number of redox reactions. So this is an account about the microorganism. So student, you just record all these things by screenshot. Okay, so student, I hope you studied, you understand the chemistry of groundwater and the rainwater. In this lecture, we will stop here. In our next session, we will talk about the geosphere, which is an next important spheres of the environment. Thank you.